Apparel. Thank you guys so much for your support. I'm really truly humbled and blessed for you guys. Just looking out. So basically, the past couple of weeks, God has just touched in our hearts about stop, pump, fake, and shoot our arrow. And the reason why that is because we are so caught up, hesitating in so big situations when God is trying to tell us, all right, I have this blessing for you. It's time to shoot. And when it's time to shoot that arrow, nothing shoots out, right? So the first video, the first week, we've been covering the first part of shooting our arrow is just by simply asking God, what is it that he wants from us and what can we do to take that first step? And then so we dug deeper into that, and then the next week of last video, we talked about just putting our perspective down of things because we try to shut ourselves down before we even try to take that first step and just put on God's perspective of things, right? And today we're going to dig even more deeper into that, just by understanding that there's just some voice that we always hear when we about to make key decisions, and they're always intervening with our relationship with God, right? So, now we're digging deeper into that, and I've started to notice that, even in my life as well, right? So, I touched on, talking about females. That's probably my biggest I don't think it's an insecurity, but I can say struggle. I'm a great people's person. But when it comes out to talking to females, I got game, ladies. Don't fool me now. I got the game, but it's just taking that first step of going up there. So I just feel as if every time I try to talk to somebody, it's that voice saying like, you really think you could bag her? Or man, she's way out of your league. And as I'm starting to understand, I'm like, nah, you know what, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do that, man. She out of my league. And that's when I started to make that decision before I even, try. And as I started to understand, I'm like, this is not even me talking, right? I'm not telling myself that to not do this. It's someone saying these things to me. And I know that it's not God because, there's always positivity coming in, or it's something that will actually benefit me in the long run of life, right? So if it's not my thoughts, if it's not God's thoughts, then whose thoughts is it? Right? And as I started to dig even deeper into the Bible, I started to understand in James chapter 4, verse 4 through 7, it says, you're cheating on God if all you want is your own way, flirting with the world every chance you get. You end up enemies of God his own way. And do you suppose God doesn't care? The proverb has it, he is a fearless, jealous lover. And what he gives in love is far better than anything else you'll find. So let God work his will in you, yell a loud no to the devil, and watch him scamper. Say a quiet yes to God, and he'll be there in no time. All right, so I'm gonna break this down to you guys, because you're like, yo, Makai, that's a lot of reading. All right, so let me break this down. So the first part of it is basically saying that we need to make a choice, because when we look at God, he's jealous. He's a jealous lover, and I know some of y'all some of y'all some real jealous lovers that I could probably blink. That your significant other could probably blink wrong at another person. Y'all be like, who is that? Who that? Oh, that's your boo now? Go ahead, you can have him. You can have him, right? And I know that if you're like that, imagine how God feels when you're feeding into this person who's giving you these thoughts that God is not telling you, right? So now, when we dig into that, he now says, who is it? So he says, so let God work in his will. Yell a loud no to the devil. So now when we think about, okay, this is the devil talking. But not only is the devil, it's the enemy. And when people have the tendency to think it's just the devil talking, but the devil is really the enemy. Let's say that. And the enemy is basically who or what distracts you from your relationship with God. I'm going to say it again. Your enemy is who or what distracts you from God. And not only it will attack your mind and your thoughts of what it's trying to tell you. It will also attack your heart. And what I mean by that is, I was watching Michael Todd's video. He's been doing a series called 24 Ever, How to Worship a King. And he basically said that whatever is at the throne of our heart, that's where our emotions go, our thoughts go, our character goes, and our will goes. That we may have relationship at the throne of our hearts. That whatever emotions we feel, whatever thoughts we feel, whatever we do is based on that significant other. Sometimes we have lust in our hearts. We do. We may do every and anything to fulfill those desires, those feelings, and those emotions, right? And some people always have a tendency to say, "Oh, I don't know how they got pregnant. I don't know how that happened." Yes, you did. It's just that you had that in your heart. You felt it, you thought about it, and then you just put it to action at your will, right? And that when we start to think about that is that instead of having the enemy or whatever is distracting us in our heart, we need to insert God in that heart so he can feed us the thoughts, feed us the feelings, feed us the emotions. And when he starts to feed us these things, that's when our will starts to get put to action and we won't even hear anything from the devil. So I'm going to say it again. The next way of shooting our arrow is that we have to resist the enemy. And what I love so much about the Bible is that there are so many stories that I can say that's me, right? Like I can point to myself in all these type of stories. And this story that I really want to dig into is 2 Samuel chapter 21 and 22, right? So what's going on is that, King David, he's going through two difficulties. He's going through a famine and he's going through war, right? So as he's going through this famine, he's going to God and just asking him, why in the world is this happening? Why are my people hungry? Why are my people thirsty? Why we don't have any supplies, right? And the reason why that is, God later tells him that it's because Saul has killed the Gibeonites. I can't pronounce them. I'm sorry, but he has killed the Gibeonites, and for that, their whole place has been in a famine. So he goes to the Gibeonites. David goes to the Gibeonites, asks them, is there anything that they need? And all they was just saying is that they don't need money. All they wanted to do was to execute Saul and his descendants. And David promised them, all right, this is going to happen, right? So as they already killed all their descendants, now David is at war. So just to give you a background, yes, David is the king, but also he was fighting in many wars. So as he's fighting, he's almost like he's on the verge of getting killed because he has so many people trying to kill. Let me break this down. You are killing it at the top, and you're at the top of your game. You become a threat to the devil and the enemy. That whenever you try to do something, there are so many parts and areas that the enemy's trying to attack you in. And that's not something to think bad about. That's something to be like, yo, I'm a bad somebody, right? So what's going on is that when he's in the war, there are so many people trying to attack him, because if you attack the king, then you've accomplished something huge, right? But then it says in verse 17, it says, but Abishai, son of Zerubbabel, came to David's rescue and killed the Philistine. Then David's men declared, you are not going out to battle with us again. Why we're snuffing out the light of Israel? All right, so let me break this down. So what happened in this verse is that, David was so close to being killed in the war that his men chose for himself that, he's going to retire from battling in wars from now on. And when I think about that is that when we're in life, all the enemy want to do, he just want to battle with us. He just want to fight with us. See if we're going to throw a punch, right? And as we just keep fighting with him, that's when the enemy started to get happy. He like, oh yeah, keep fighting with me. And as we keep fighting, we think we won the battle. But that's when we get tired. That's when depression comes in. That's when anxiety comes in. And guess what? That's when we start to hesitate. That's when we start not listening to God's word. And that when that happens, God will get so fed up that he will take us out of that position where we can't even fight no more. Where we can't even do what we want, right? That in life that we may want to hold on that job so much because we were so insecure that we may not live without it. When God was trying to bless us with opening up our own business. Or we may be holding on to that relationship because we feel so lonely in our hearts and we don't want to leave them. But God has someone for us that won't put their hands on us. And I really want to just give you this one question just to take with you throughout this week. I really want to ask you, who or what is it that's stopping you from shooting your arrow with God? Who or what is stopping you from shooting your arrow with God? And what I found as King David was forced to being retired, they had another 3 battles, and it was hurting David because he wanted to fight in the battle so bad. But what happened? They was fighting the biggest giants of them all, and for some reason, they took every single giant out without David. And what I love about this is the next chapter. You know, David is just praising God and just saying, "Thank you, God, for just saving me and looking out for me," right? And what I love, this is what he described as what God has done. He said he shot arrows and scattered his enemies. His lightning flashed and they were confused. And I just want to tell you guys that when we shoot our arrows, when we ask God, when we rearrange our perspective, when we resist the enemy, that's when we stop hesitating. That's when dreams start coming in. That's when businesses start being born. That's when purpose starts coming into play. But I'm gonna tell you this though. But when we resist the enemy, when we don't resist the enemy, when we try to ask God for things, we can't hear anything. And when we try to rearrange our perspective and put on the gods, we start to become blind to what God is trying to give us vision. So, all I want to tell you guys is resist the enemy. Because all he's trying to do is attack your mind, your thoughts, and what you feel on the inside of your heart. So thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you guys so much for your inputs. And if you guys want to buy some more merchandise, especially this new hoodie, Humble Me hoodie, I ask you to go on to www.mekhigh.com. I'm going to spell it for you, www.mekhigh.com. Thank you guys so much. Love you.